Welcome to my Intro to HTML web video series. This video I'm going to focus on a little topic called Whitespace. I'm going to talk about Whitespace in a couple of different contexts during the duration of this course. This is the first time I want to talk about Whitespace. Whitespace is any open space in in your document, either in the browser or in the code. Whitespace looks something like this. This area right after the bracket for body, I've got a whole bunch of space on this line that's not used at all before background color red shows up. As I've been writing my markup and my CSS all along, you've been seeing me use this whitespace, and hopefully you've been kind of mimicking what I've been doing. I haven't talked about it explicitly, however. Now I want to talk about why we use whitespace and how to use it effectively. First of all, whitespace does not, or whitespace in your markup does not affect the way your web page will display in the browser. For example, if I take out this whitespace entirely for this declaration, and I save it, I refresh it in the browser, no change whatsoever. Whitespace also shows up in the HTML. You've seen me use whitespace all over the place. There's this white space here in between where the article opens and where the next paragraph opens. I could put all of this on the same line if I wanted to. I could take this white space out down here, put all of this on the same line, put all of this on the same line, and I've got one long line of text from here to here. Now, I've been using word wrap in Notepad++, so you've seen how that works. Word wrap, just wherever you run out of room on the page, it forces the text to the next page. If I didn't use word wrap, it looks something like this. I would have one long line. Okay? So this is all of the text within my article, all on one line. This is markup without whitespace. I'm going to save it, refresh it in the browser, no change. See, those spaces and those white spaces in my markup had absolutely no effect on the way it displays in the browser. So what's the purpose of whitespace then? If it doesn't show up in the browser, then why do it? Well, I bet you could agree that we've got a major problem here. This is really, really hard to read. Now, let's say you had a syntax error in there somewhere. Maybe you forgot to close a paragraph. Well, it's not going to really affect the way it displays in the browser right now, but if you forget to close a paragraph, you might have some issues. It just put a little bit of an extra space there. But if you had it in other types of things, like a table, or if you had that in an H1, you'd have some serious problems. It would be really hard to trace through this and find where that syntax error is. If you follow the way that I do whitespace, it makes it a lot easier to find syntax errors. So here's my general rules for whitespace. First of all, anytime you have a new opening tag, put that tag on its own line. So for example, opening article has its own line. Closing article has its own line. You could even go so far as to put the text for this paragraph down below it. Find the closing tag, and that goes on its own line as well. That's hard to find. There it is. So go to the end of this, put the closing tag on its own line. Now it's much more clear where the paragraph begins and ends. That's easier to see this problem, especially with Notepad++, highlighting where our tags begin and end. Very easy to find. So I'm going to do that with the rest of my paragraph tags here. Scan through, find the closing tags, there they are. Get its own line, get its own line, get its own line, get its own line. So each one of these opening and closing tags have their own line. You can very clearly see where the paragraphs begin and end, where the article begins and end. It makes it easy to read. Another thing that you can do, now this adds quite a bit of white space in, but it really makes things easy to read. Put spaces in between and separate out chunks. So I put a space in between where the opening article is and the opening and closing paragraphs are. This spaces it out further, but it also makes it very visually easy to read. The next thing that I do, so if we have our opening and closing tags all on their own lines, the next thing that you want to think about is nested items. When you have something that's nested inside of something else. For example, these paragraphs are all nested inside of this article. Nesting is, as you may recall, having tags fully open and close inside another tag set. So all these paragraphs fully open and close inside of the article. If you have nested items, tab them over one level. So these are all tabbed over one level from where that is. If I had something nested inside of these paragraphs, which I wouldn't ever do, if I did though, I would tab those over as well. I'm going to do a little example with a table so you can see more clearly how that tabbing and nesting works. Turn word wrap back on. Save it. See, this is much easier to read. I'm going to put a table in underneath the article here. Table opens. Table closes. T head, close T head. TR. Close TR. TD. Close TD. Get some content in there. Copy this. It's going to be a 3x3 table. Get my T foot in here. Close T foot. Get my T body in here. And close T body. Now, this is not very easy to read. It's hard to see the different levels of nesting. So here's how it works. Everything that's nested inside of the table gets tabbed over once. Everything that's nested inside of the T head gets tabbed over another time. So you can see these levels of nesting starting to occur. Everything gets nested inside of a TR gets tabbed over again. You can see these levels of nesting, and it's much more easy to read. So this section up here is much more easy to read than this section down here. I'm just going to finish out this tabbing for the nesting. Now you can see each of the constructs that are on the same level. So example, TDs are all at the same level of nesting, be it in the T head, T foot, or T body. They're all at the same level of tab. TRs are all on the same level, so they're all on the same level of tab. T head, T foot, T body are the same level constructs, so they're all on the same level of tab. And then table is the outermost. This is very easy to read. This is something that a lot of people do when they write their markup. It doesn't matter, I mean, it's not going to change the way the white space doesn't affect the way things display in the browser, but what it does is it makes your code, your markup, and your CSS much more easy to read. And this is a very common coding convention that I'm showing you right here. A lot of people do this. So in short, Whitespace does nothing for you as far as how something displays in the browser, but it definitely does something for you as far as how it makes it easy to read. Whitespace equals easy to read code. So things to keep in mind. Nested items get tabbed over for the appropriate number of tabs. Opening and closing tags go on their own line. and just get in the habit of putting white space in there that is easy for you to read, and then stick to that convention. Pick something and stick to it.